Hey, I'm Brian, a veteran game developer who also worked in the film industry for a long time. I've been a creative director, narrative director, animation director, lead writer, storyboard artist, animator, character designer, teacher. I've worked on Mass Effect 2, StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls, Paragon, Jade Empire, and more. I've also worked on lots of film and TV like Iron Giant, Space Jam, Lion King 1.5, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, The Curious George movie, and more. I've worked at lots of studios. Woo! Finally, I've taught classes and lectured at a variety of universities like CalArts, Laguna College of Art and Design, University of California, Irvine, and Harvard's Graduate School of Design. And now I'd love to talk story with you. Earlier, I talked about Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls as an example of a game where we took the stay loose approach to planning. But I thought maybe it would be good to use an example from pop culture, just for a wider audience or people who may not have played Reaper of Souls to still sort of understand the value of stay loose. So I wanted to use a TV show that is considered one of the best TV shows ever made. Anytime you see a list of the top 5 shows or the top 10 shows in the history of television, this show is on it. So obviously they were doing something right. That show is Breaking Bad. And the show creator, Vince Gilligan, has been very open about times that he's deviated from his plan. So there was a plan. They generally followed the plan, but then they made some really big deviations. A key one is the fact that the anti-hero is a guy named Walter White, who's a high school chemistry teacher turned drug lord. And he has this strange relationship in the sense he's like a father figure to, or he feels fatherly towards this kind of junkie former student of his, meth cook, Jesse Pinkman. Jesse's character was created to help Walter White break bad in season 1, and then he was slated to be killed towards the end of season 1, and that character would not exist. But as they were shooting season 1, Vince Gilligan, the show creator, and all of his writers, they sensed something there. There was a dynamism to the relationship. The characters brought out the best and the worst in each other. It introduced just a lot of really interesting possibilities. And so they made the big decision to deviate from their plan. They decided that Jesse would live in season 1, and Jesse ended up living through the entire run of the show and appeared in a feature film that was made after the show. It obviously is a testament to that being the right decision, because that relationship was a cornerstone of the entire show. Likewise, the character of Tuco, who was the antagonist, the unpredictable, erratic drug kingpin in season 1, I have heard was slated to continue in season 2. The actor asked to be killed off. He was on 2 shows and he had to travel between locations, and it was just a lot. And so they rolled with that and killed his character off as well. If you're worried about the actor having, sort of left one of the most successful TV shows in history, don't worry. He was able to come back and reprise his role in Better Call Saul, which is an entire show that's a sequel to Breaking Bad. So he's doing all right. That was another one where they had the plan and then they just veered off. And his departure, I haven't heard this said or read this, but it seems obvious to me that his departure opened the door to have a lot of other villains come in, most notably Gus Fring, who is one of the greatest villains of all time. Rolling with the punches, staying loose, really helped that show. There's more examples from the same show. The character of Saul Goodman, who ends up becoming the anti-hero of the sequel show, Better Call Saul, was a side character who his personality was not fully formed yet. I mean, they sort of saw him as a fast-talking lawyer and all that, but they also had a scene where he was supposed to come and clean up the scene of a drug overdose where Jesse Pinkman's girlfriend, Jane, overdoses and dies, and then Saul Goodman comes and cleans up the scene. And the actor for Saul Goodman was not available that day, so they adjusted. They created a new character rather than hold on tight and say, well, we'll just move the schedule around and we'll shoot another day to have that. And that had 2 really important effects. The first is that Saul Goodman's character is sleazy and slimy and dishonest, but him coming into a house and cleaning up the scene of a death and then kind of like giving Jesse a really hard talking to about how to talk to the police about it would have altered his character. He would be a different character, a much harder edged character, and one that had crossed a certain line that the Saul Goodman of Better Call Saul never crossed, which means that show might not exist, or if it did, it would be a very different show. So I think that's really powerful. The other really big result of that decision to roll with the punches and stay loose is that they created a character, an old, surly, kind of laconic man named Mike Ehrmantraut. And he comes in and he cleans up the scene, and then he just tells Jesse a couple of very simple things to hold on to about what to say, and then he leaves. and Mike Ehrmantraut becomes a major figure in the Breaking Bad universe, and a really just amazing character. I don't think it's exaggeration to say one of maybe the top 100 characters in the history of TV. Really, really amazing character who has a big part in Breaking Bad and a really big part in Better Call Saul. So this show, and there's more examples, and there's examples from Better Call Saul as well, of side characters who weren't supposed to be that big end up sort of becoming bigger characters and sticking around, becoming central to the entire sort of thesis of the show. And so I think that the quality of that show and the quality of the things that came out of them staying loose is a real testament to the power of stay loose. They didn't make it up as they went. They had a plan, but every time they needed to adjust, they adjusted. And also in a previous video, I talked about planting seeds, and I don't know if this was just planting a seed, but it's really interesting that in Saul Goodman's first appearance in Breaking Bad, when he gets dragged out into the desert with a bag over his head and he thinks he's going to be shot, and he says, "Lalo didn't send you? No Lalo?" And when he realizes that these guys are not from Lalo, whoever Lalo is, he's super relieved. Even though he's kneeling in front of a grave with guns to the back of his head, he's relieved that it's not Lalo. That implies a huge amount of importance to some character named Lalo, and they never reference it again in the Breaking Bad show. They never talk about Lalo, they never mention him. They seem like they just planted a seed. And years later, in Better Call Saul, in the later seasons of Better Call Saul, Lalo Salamanca shows up, and he's an amazing antagonist. He's right up there with Gus Fring as a psychopathic bad guy who's incredibly important in the Breaking Bad universe. And so I don't know for sure if they were planting a seed or if they had some master plan, but it's hard to imagine that they knew at that point in Breaking Bad that they were gonna, many years later, do a prequel show called Better Call Saul, and that when they did, late in the show's run, they would introduce a character named Lalo. It feels like they were planting a seed, and then later, when they needed something, it was there, waiting for them, which is a great way to do it. Highly recommend watching both and taking both shows as a great lesson on how to stay loose. That's all for now. I'll see you on the next one.